Welcome to Rainbow Spotlight, where we celebrate the stories of LGBTQ+ athletes and the spaces that make sports more inclusive. Today, we're diving into the inspiring journey of Stonewall FC, the world's most successful LGBTQ+ football club, and the players whose lives have been transformed by being part of it. For many LGBTQ+ athletes, coming out is not just a one-time event, it's a continuous process shaped by the environments they enter. Stonewall FC, founded in 1991, has provided a safe space for LGBTQ+ footballers, proving that the sport can be welcoming to everyone. But beyond their legacy of winning championships, their real success lies in the community they've built and the lives they've changed. In this story, we'll explore how Tage Pledger and Ioana Kokinapliti found not only a team, but a family within Stonewall FC. Their experiences highlight why LGBTQ+ sports teams matter and how they help athletes embrace both their identity and their passion. If you support LGBTQ+ inclusion in sports, make sure to subscribe to Rainbow Spotlight for more stories that inspire change. Now let's dive in. Number 1. Introduction. More than a football club. For Tage Pledger, football has always been a central part of his life. Growing up, it was his passion, his social world, and his escape. But for years, it was also a space where he felt he had to hide who he really was. "I went to an all-boys school that had a toxic masculine culture," Pledger recalls. "Growing up, that felt limiting for me." Like many LGBTQ+ athletes, Pledger felt that being gay and loving football couldn't coexist. Even after coming out in university, football still felt like a space where he couldn't be fully himself. It was only when he discovered Stonewall FC, a football club dedicated to LGBTQ+ inclusion, that he finally found a place where he felt he truly belonged. Founded in 1991 in London, Stonewall FC is the world's most successful LGBTQ+ football club, with 19 gold medals from international LGBTQ+ tournaments and a history of breaking barriers. The club has played at Wembley Stadium, partnered with Adidas and EA Sports, and continues to prove that LGBTQ+ players have a place in football. But its impact goes beyond trophies. For players like Pledger and many others, Stonewall FC isn't just about football. It's about identity, acceptance, and community. Number 2. The legacy of Stonewall FC, a football dynasty, a team that changed football for LGBTQ+ athletes. In the early 1990s, the idea of an openly gay football club was almost unheard of. Homophobia in sports was rampant, and the assumption was that football and queerness didn't mix. That's why the founding of Stonewall FC in 1991 was so revolutionary. It was not just a football team, it was a statement. For decades, LGBTQ+ players had either hidden their identity or been forced out of the game entirely. Stonewall FC was created to change that narrative, giving gay men, and later a broader LGBTQ+ community, a place where they could play without fear of judgment. Championships and milestones. Despite starting as a grassroots club, Stonewall FC quickly became a powerhouse in LGBTQ+ football. Over the last 30 years, they have won 19 gold medals in international tournaments, consistently reaching the podium at the Gay Games, the IGLFA World Cup, International Gay and Lesbian Football Association, the Euro Games, Europe's largest LGBTQ+ sports event. Their success is often compared to Real Madrid, not just for the titles, but for their legendary status in LGBTQ+ football. Breaking barriers in English football. Stonewall FC's influence hasn't been limited to LGBTQ+ tournaments. They've also made history within mainstream football. Playing at Wembley Stadium, in 2018, Stonewall FC became the first LGBTQ+ team to play at Wembley, marking a moment of recognition from the English football establishment. Co-founder Ashley Pitter awarded MBE. One of the club's founders, Ashley Pitter, received an MBE for his contributions to football and fighting homophobia. Major sponsorships. Stonewall FC's partnerships with Adidas and EA Sports brought LGBTQ plus visibility into football culture in ways never seen before. More than just a team. As their slogan proudly states, Stonewall FC is proud to be more than a football club. Their impact is measured not just in victories, but in the lives they have changed. For players like Pledger and Ioana Kokinopliti, joining Stonewall FC wasn't just about playing football, it was about finding a place where they could be their true selves. Number 3. Tige Pledger, from isolation to acceptance. For Tige Pledger, football was always more than just a sport. From the moment he could walk, it was his world. It shaped his weekends, his friendships, and his sense of belonging. But for most of his life, it was also a space where he felt like he had to hide. Growing up in South London, Pledger attended an all-boys school where toxic masculinity was deeply ingrained in the culture. Football, which should have been a space for connection, instead became a place where he felt like an outsider. There was an unspoken rule that being gay and loving football could not coexist. I went to an all-boys school that had a toxic masculine culture. Growing up, that felt limiting for me, he recalls. Even after he came out in university, the feeling of disconnection from football remained. He had embraced his identity in other areas of his life, but the sport he loved still seemed like a world where he would never be fully accepted. He continued playing casually with friends, but felt that if he revealed his true self, he would not be embraced in the same way. The game he loved had once been a source of joy, but now it carried a weight he could not shake. That changed when he found Stonewall FC. After moving back to London and realizing he lacked a strong gay community, he reached out to the club and was invited to a training session. From the moment he stepped onto the pitch, he felt something different. There was no need to hide, no pressure to conform. The sport that had once felt restrictive now became a place of freedom. The club has showed me there is a world in football where I can be fully accepted for who I am. It's made me feel so much more proud of my sexuality. Stonewall FC was more than just a team. It was a family. It was a space where his love for football and his identity could coexist without conflict. It gave him not only the joy of playing again, but also a sense of belonging that he had never fully experienced before. Because coming out isn't the end of the story. There is a journey of acceptance that continues. Being part of Stonewall FC has allowed me to get to where I am now more quickly. For Pledger, joining Stonewall FC was not just about playing football, it was about reclaiming a part of himself that had been lost. It was about rewriting the narrative that football was only for a certain kind of masculinity. It was about proving that authenticity and excellence could exist side by side. 4. The continuous journey of coming out. For many LGBTQ+ people, coming out is often perceived as a single moment, a dramatic revelation, a singular event that marks a transition from secrecy to openness. But in reality, coming out is not a one-time experience. It is a continuous process, shaped by new environments, new relationships, and the ever-evolving understanding of oneself. Tige Pledger and Ioana Kokinopliti's journeys with Stonewall FC highlight this reality. They both came out in different ways at different times, yet their involvement with the team helped them reach a new level of self-acceptance. For them, football was not just a passion, it was a tool for personal growth, a space where coming out felt less like a challenge and more like an act of joy. Coming out in sports, however, remains a complex experience. Even as attitudes toward LGBT+ inclusion improve, athletes still face unique pressures. The locker room has traditionally been an environment where masculinity and toughness are celebrated, sometimes at the expense of inclusivity. For many, there is still an underlying fear that coming out could change how teammates see them. The pressure to conform, to blend in, to avoid standing out as different is deeply ingrained in sports culture. This is why LGBTQ+ teams like Stonewall FC are so important. They provide athletes with an opportunity to be themselves without fear of judgment. They eliminate the tension that often exists in mainstream sports environments where LGBTQ+ athletes may constantly feel the need to assess whether it is safe to reveal their identity. For Pledger, the ability to be openly gay while playing football was something he had never imagined growing up. He spent years feeling like his love for the sport and his identity could never fully coexist. But at Stonewall FC, that conflict disappeared. The club has shown me that there is a world in football where I can be fully accepted for who I am, he says. It's made me feel so much more proud of my sexuality. For Kokinopliti, football had once been a source of suppression. It was something she had been denied as a child, something that had contributed to her internal struggles rather than helping her feel more at home in herself. But through Stonewall FC, it became a vehicle for self-acceptance. It's a safe haven for me, she says. It has given me friendships and support that I never thought I would have in football. The idea that coming out is an ongoing process is something that LGBTQ+ sports teams worldwide understand deeply. It is not just about that first step. It is about creating a supportive structure that helps individuals continue to grow into themselves. Stonewall FC, like many other LGBTQ+ sports organizations, provides that structure. It does not just give players a place to compete. It gives them a place to thrive. For LGBTQ+ athletes who may not feel comfortable coming out in mainstream teams, having a space like this can be life-changing. It removes the barriers that have historically kept people from embracing both their identity and their love of sports. It ensures that coming out is not something that happens in isolation, but something that is met with unwavering support. For Pledger and Kokinopliti, their time at Stonewall FC has reinforced an important truth. Coming out is not just about saying the words. It is about finding a space where those words can be met with celebration rather than fear. It is about continuing to discover what it means to live openly and authentically, not just once, but every day. 5. Stonewall FC and the future of LGBTQ+ football. Stonewall FC has spent more than 30 years proving that football is for everyone. What started as a grassroots effort to give gay men a safe place to play has evolved into one of the most influential LGBTQ+ sports organizations in the world. But their journey is far from over. The club's growth over the past few years has been remarkable. Since launching its first women and non-binary team in 2021, Stonewall FC's membership has tripled. More than 600 jerseys from the first edition Unity kit have been sold worldwide, reaching fans in the United States, Australia, Mexico, and beyond. Their presence in high-profile campaigns with Adidas and EA Sports has only further cemented their role as a leader in LGBTQ+ sports inclusion. But beyond the statistics, Stonewall FC's greatest achievement is the community it has built. For players like Tige Pledger and Ioana Kokinopliti, joining the club was more than just an opportunity to play football. It was an experience that changed their relationship with both the sport and themselves. It was proof that they could be authentically themselves on the pitch. Stonewall FC's mission remains clear: to expand LGBTQ+ inclusion in football, to challenge homophobia and transphobia, and to continue creating a space where players of all identities feel safe, welcomed, and celebrated. Building a more inclusive football culture. While Stonewall FC is making a significant impact, the broader world of football still has challenges to overcome. Men's football remains one of the least LGBTQ+ inclusive major sports. While women's football has seen a strong presence of openly queer athletes, the men's game continues to struggle with a culture of silence and fear. Homophobia in stadiums and online abuse are still major problems. LGBTQ+ fans and players frequently face discrimination, whether in person or on social media. Few professional male footballers have come out publicly. Players in top leagues around the world often fear the impact that coming out could have on their careers, sponsorships, and fan relationships. Stonewall FC is working to change these realities by proving that an openly LGBTQ+ team can be successful, respected, and influential in the football world. They are demonstrating that LGBTQ+ players are not just a niche group within the sport, they are an essential part of its future. What's next for Stonewall FC? As the club looks to the future, they have several key goals, expanding their community outreach programs to ensure that LGBTQ+ youth have access to inclusive football spaces, strengthening partnerships with professional football organizations to influence change at the highest levels of the game, continuing to grow their women's and non-binary team, ensuring that LGBTQ+ players of all genders have a place to compete, fighting for stronger anti-discrimination policies in football, working with governing bodies like the FA to make football more inclusive. Stonewall FC's impact is already being felt beyond London. Their model is inspiring other LGBTQ+ football teams around the world to form, grow, and demand greater representation in the sport. Their presence in international LGBTQ+ tournaments is helping to create a global network of inclusive football spaces. The road ahead is long, but the direction is clear. Football is changing, and Stonewall FC is leading the way. Before we end this video, I want to remind everyone that love is love, but abuse is abuse. Period. Our community stands for love, consent, respect, and dignity. Nothing less. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on more Rainbow Spotlight content. Let's keep this conversation going in the comments below. Remember, our rainbow shines brightest when we stand together against darkness. Love wins, always. What are your thoughts on how we can better protect our community's values? Share below.